You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of This, your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting, Zach. Hey, Adam.
Hey. I hope that you are feeling, both Canadian and cannibalistic this week.
Neither. 0 for 2, my dude.
I hope you are excited to talk about Alpha Flight.
I'm super not. Here's the thing. Many people have told me, oh, you should read Alpha Flight. Alpha Flight's great. And here's the thing. About Alpha Flight. You got John Byrne, and then Bill Mantlo, and then some guy named James Hudsnell that I've never heard of. I assume Canadian. Then Fabes, then Scotty Lobbs, and then Simon Furman for some
Interesting.
reason.
Simon Furman. I'd be interested to see what that looks like.
I'm not a British or any sort of Transformers guy, except for More Than Meets the Eye, The Lost Light, as we all know, as I'm sure I brought up on this podcast. So I say that to say, if someone's trying to sell me on the merits of a 130-issue comic series with large prominent runs by John Byrne and Bill Mantlo, like I have to get through those first 67 issues before I get to a guy that I don't even know, and then Fabian Nicieza cashing a paycheck. Y'all are not selling me on this book. Never mind. I will absolutely read issues 29 to 31, and we can do it on the podcast because Mike Mignola drew it.
Didn't he just do the covers? I didn't think he did interiors.
No, he did interiors for 3 issues.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'll read that.
Might as well.
It'll be Bill Mantlo comics, so it'll be bad, and likely stolen. See, we're not allowed to say mean things about Bill Mantlo because of the unfortunateness, but he did definitely steal that comic from Barry Windsor Smith.
Oh,
and it wasn't the first time because you know what? Oh shoot, what's his name? Harlan Ellison. You heard about the Harlan Ellison thing where Harlan Ellison had to get a copy of literally everything Marvel. That's because Bill Mantlo stole one of his comics.
Right? Yeah. No, he did it multiple times. That was like a shtick for him. He was like, "Did it matter? Did it matter that I plagiarized? Who cares?
Yes!
It's comics.
Yes, William, it did.
Funny books for the children."
Hey, is it weird that I immediately say yes? I will read the Mike Mignola drawn issues, but not the 12-issue run that Jim Lee did.
Again,
that's a non-starter for me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the reason we are talking about Alpha Flight this week is not because this is an Alpha Flight themed episode. It is not.
It's not an Alpha Flight themed episode.
It's just that Alpha Flight pops up in 2 of these stories because we are talking about the monster of the North, the Wendigo.
So Wendigo is interesting for me because I always grew up with Wendigo, that thing that Wolverine fought that one time. Yeah, I know Wendigo from those weird stories in Canada that Chris Claremont wrote a couple of the times. Turns out, you'll notice that Chris Claremont does not use Wendigo again. John Byrne uses Wendigo. What you learn, as you grow and change as people, is that Wendigo is actually a Algonquin First Peoples tradition from pre-colonial times that really was strongly coded with greed, famine, starvation, and wouldn't you know it, during the post-colonial times, it often got applied to other white people who were very greedy.
So
it's an interesting
storied history.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to approach, and I am not at all the most qualified person to talk about the history of Wendigos. But I just want to say there's a lot more to it than this cannibal monster that we're going to be describing. But I can't stop what comics came out 50 years ago. I can just say that this is what they are.
Yeah. So why are we talking about, Mr. Albino Bigfoot of the North this week? We do have a Patreon request, correct?
Yeah, because this is a Patreon request from Robert. Robert went over to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom, reaching deep down into his hearts and his pocketbooks, and tossed a couple of coins into our coffers. Robert has tossed, I'll just be honest, more than a couple of coins in our coffers in his time, and we greatly appreciate that. And Robert also always gives the best suggestions of what's this old Claremont comic you haven't covered yet, and then how can you make it not about other old Claremont comics that I would rather you talk about. And he's tolerated this so much.
Hey, this just opened the door for some really fun opportunities. So we
do have another old comic in here.
We do. That is true.
We put an old one in here.
Respect to the Robert, right? But he requested Uncanny X-Men.
Oh, if you want to be like Robert, you're out of time because we got rid of that tier years ago. But if you want to get a request, you can go over to the website I said earlier, the Patreon one, and toss a couple of coins into our coffer. I already did the bit. I'm sorry, Adam. I already did the bit.
You can always do it twice. It doesn't matter.
We're plugging the Patreon right now, folks. The line is extant.
Yeah,
it's short though.
Get in there, get your $5 in there, and get your fun request in. Make us talk about something fun and or stupid or whatever.
Pick a weird. Here's what I'd ask: someone pick a weird old comic, and then say go to town. Someone be like the guy who requested Man Thing, and we were like, can we find two other Man Thing comics?
Challenge us.
The answer is, of course, we could find 4, and we had to narrow them down.
We made it work. This one was a lot easier.
This one was a lot easier because for some reason, folks keep doing Alpha Flight
and or Wendigo. So this is Uncanny X-Men 139, 140. This is the 2-issue arc that takes place before John Byrne's final stab at Uncanny X-Men with Days of Future Past. And this is a real nice little side quest. We start with 139, which has a great opening Danger Room sequence. Angel is kind of screwing things up. Nightcrawler almost dies.
This is in the hot 5-issue segment in the hottest part of Claremont's run, where Angel's just like, I'm on the team again, guys.
Yeah, I'm back.
Claremont tries to get a feud going between Angel and Wolverine, and he keeps trying, and it never works. Because here's the thing, Angel is trying to get heat on Wolverine, and Wolverine's the most popular and famous person, especially right now.
It's true. And this is prime Wolverine storytelling in these 2 issues. It's basically him and Nightcrawler's show for these 2 issues, because not only is Nightcrawler going to show up in the Danger Room with a nice platter of lemonade for everybody, but he's also bringing Wolverine a beer. So we're getting some great...
Nightcrawler is the best dude.
Right? Yeah.
That's the thing.
Great moments throughout here. So before we get
yell at Anna in the other room. Just say, we're talking about how great Nightcrawler is. No, you don't have to
she knows.
That.
Yeah, she knows. She knows what we're talking about. Yeah. She's like, I wrote an academic essay about these issues, right? I was like, no, I didn't know that.
She could have sent us the abstract. We could have read that.
I just found this out a half an hour.
The episode could have just been us her defending her dissertation on these issues.
So before we get into the Canadian Wendigo adventure, we do get a nice little vignette where Kitty Pryde is introduced to Stevie Hunter via Storm, who then is Storm's a little jealous that Stevie Hunter is having a nice relationship with this girl who she's developing a maternal relationship with. So that's
but who she's also met 3 times before.
Yeah, that too, right? Yeah. So anyway, Wolverine's I left Department H and need to check it out. I should probably go up there and see what's going on.
I should probably make sure they're done manhunting me. I quit. You sent a dude after me for a little bit. Are we cool now, guys? Also, great thing in this that I keep forgetting is that before John Byrne leaves the book, which happens in the next few issues, he does give Wolverine his best clothes.
Oh, yeah.
To which Kurt's like, hey, Wolverine, I've been meaning to ask, why the new costume? And Wolverine just says, why not?
Yep.
It's great. It's like, perfect. I look better now. It's so good, and I love it. And then we have to get to Alpha Flight.
We do, and I appreciate that the way that Wolverine decides to bring himself back into, his best friend's life is to break into their house and just steal some beer.
Listen, I struggle to read Wolverine's relationship with James and Heather Hudson as a fully platonic relationship. And I'm not normally one to do that.
Yeah.
He feels like he's their third. And
he's throuple material for sure.
He seems happy with the situation. He just wants everyone to be chill and stop trying to murder him.
So shortly after this, we are reunited with several other Alpha Flight members. We have Snowbird, who I was asked by friend of the show, my one and only Anna, to share that Snowbird was based on a Canadian superhero named Nelvana, who had similar shape-shifting powers. And that is the only Alpha Flight super fact that I am bringing to this episode.
I will one-up you on this. And your super fact, not one-up, but I will compliment your super fact. Because my super fact ties into your super fact.
Oh, which is?
This aligns with what John Byrne has publicly stated. By the way, this is Chris Claremont, John Byrne. Y'all know, like, the issues that are Claremont Byrne. This is one of them. Sorry.
Classic X-Men.
Nope, that's a different series. John Bolton did most of the drawing. Actually, I take that back. John Byrne is credited on many classic X-Men books.
Just not the parts
As I said it, I heard it. It's just the classic X-Men parts are not in this one.
Give me the fun fact.
The fun fact is that John Byrne, when he was creating Alpha Flight, described two of the characters as fan characters, which were things he drew as a teenager and he wanted to put in a book.
Yes, I have heard
those two were Guardian
and
Snowbird.
Yes.
So I get the feeling that he just watched whatever that cartoon was, that Novia, and he was like, oh yeah, I could file the edges off of this one.
Yeah, apparently there is a storied comic book history of Nelvana.
Nelvana, excuse me.
And I also learned that while John Byrne is not Canadian, he did spend...
Yes, he is.
He's not.
Well,
but
okay.
he did.
No, he's English by birth, right?
His youth through college in Canada. So that is a big chunk of his growing up is Canada. So that's why he has this link to these Alpha Flight characters.
Hey, wait. Was Captain Canada before or after Alpha Flight?
I have no idea.
No, 1979. So would have been...
That's before.
Well, before Alpha Flight, but I don't know if it would have been before... I don't know if it would have been before... what's his name? Before Guardian shows up.
Oh, gotcha.
Though Captain Canuck would have. So John Byrne literally just ripped off two Canadian superheroes, and that's his big... Y'all keep telling me Alpha Flight's good, because the rest of his characters are the French twins.
Yep.
Who, let's say, problematic. There are some challenges with their portrayal.
Sure.
Also, they're French.
French Canadian.
Then you've got... I assume that our French listeners will be very upset that I referred to French Canadians as French, and I assume our Quebecy listeners are out smoking a cigarette. I don't know what they're doing. The rest of our French listeners are also out smoking a cigarette, but they're doing it fancier. The rest of Alpha Flight is just a native mystic man in a Sasquatch.
Pretty much. You got
that's his great creative thing. Also, Puck. Puck's the best. I can't say anything bad about Puck. I can say a lot bad about...
Puck sucks.
I love Puck. Puck.
He's just this little dirtbag.
You're describing why I love him. Thank you, Adam. You just said, look at this weird little dirtbag. Yes, that's my son.
All right, so We've
We
spent
should talk about this actual
way
comic.
too much time talking about this team that we don't like. I
Well,
do want
we're
to
not
mention.
done.
I want to mention a sequence that's in 139 that I really like, which is that when Snowbird comes in to introduce herself, she is a polar bear. And it is one of the seldom times that you actually see a superhero scared. And Nightcrawler does a full-on Scooby-Doo onto Wolverine as Shaggy. It's a great cartoon reaction.
I'm looking at his face in this panel right now because I got to
Yeah.
stand so I can look at my comics while
Yep.
I'm so happy about that for this podcast.
Love it.
He's got a wild face. His hair straight up.
It's
like
great.
he's got Kramer hair. Like
I just
Kramer
really
from the
appreciate
Seinfeld.
Because you never see a superhero scared, and it's so much fun.
Nightcrawler, incredibly cute in this comic. Like,
he's
just
great.
I love him.
Yeah, he's going through some stuff too, because there's this great Claremont dialogue filled thought bubble panel of Claremont going out to the car and staring out into the sunset and mourning Jean.
This is right after Dark Phoenix, so
yes,
Nightcrawler, not Chris Claremont, but also Chris Claremont a little bit, is sad about Jean.
We're also getting John Byrne's artistic recreation of Wolverine's first appearance, which we will talk about later in this episode. But
spoiler alert,
we got to talk about the Wendigo. So Nightcrawler, Wendigo shows up on the scene
from the video game. We all know it. We all know that that's what the Wendigo does in the video game. The one that we stole our music from.
So we start 140 with the panel that made John Byrne leave the X-Men, right? Because of the conflict about Colossus taking this stump out of the ground, which just
so for folks who don't know, it's 140 at this point. This is 139, 140. That's the story we're doing. John Byrne on this is credited with plot and pencils, which makes sense. He wanted to do an Alpha Flight 1, and Chris was like, "Great, yeah, we can do that. We're doing my big Terminator story next." Mm-hmm. So he gets this panel, and Byrne, shocking no one, was getting a little territorial of this comic that he felt like he put on the map, which is weird because I've seen contemporaneous documents about how fans were really upset that Dave Cockrum was leaving this book and that John Byrne was the new guy, which is curious.
Sure.
To me. It makes me rethink John Byrne. Also, the rest of his career vis-a-vis the rest of Claremont's career. And look, we say a lot of trash about Christopher Claremont on this podcast, a man who I have a lot of feelings about. I would take 100 issues of modern day Claremont versus like 3 issues of modern day John Byrne. Not even a question.
Please, may we never see another John Byrne thing for the rest of my life.
It's okay. At some point, I'm going to say this, and then if and when we get it wrong on this podcast, someone can correct me. I have no interest in ranking John Byrne's Elsewhere comics on this show. Like, I just don't want to do that.
Ugh, no. For people who don't know and need to be regularly reminded that John Byrne is just a terrible person.
I've had to be that person from time to time to be regularly reminded.
Yeah. So if you don't know, now you know. And if you need more specifics, just hit me up on Twitter. I'll give you the dirt. It's gross. So anyway, there's this thing with Colossus pulling a stump out of the ground. And somehow the difference between Byrne's idea of this scene and Claremont's dialogue just really rankled Byrne to no end. He was like, I'm out.
In Byrne's idea of this scene, Colossus is very simply and easily ripping a stump out of the ground. Colossus does not, he's in his metal form, but he does not look like that he is exerting a huge amount of force. He is smiling while he does this. Chris Claremont's dialogue has him say, "By Lenin, either my heart will burst and my steel body crack, or I will pour you free."
It's called a duel with an old withered tree stump. It's just amusing to me that this is the thing that really got on everybody's nerves.
It's so unfortunate that John Byrne is pretty much 100% in the right on this specific one page. I'm gonna say, actually, Chris, just like, can we match the dialogue to the art here a little bit? John's right on that page.
All right, so it wasn't just Colossus in the log. We know that John Byrne and Claremont were butting heads on other things like Kitty Pryde and the way that Claremont was characterizing her as a child genius in issues like this.
He didn't like, in general, what he had to deal with his artistic choices being so significantly challenged in Dark Phoenix.
Right. So there was like a battling of creative minds here, which, it just happens between a writer and artist when they have different ideas. So that's okay.
Never once in the history of comics.
Yeah, right. It's like, it's not a new story, right? So the bulk of the second issue is fighting with the Wendigo. The Wendigo has taken a mother and child captive and is hiding them for future meals in a cave. And we get some great Nightcrawler stuff here with him porting around and great acrobatic leaps around the Wendigo. And of course, now, as this fight continues, we get the rest of Alpha Flight and Wolverine involved.
Alpha Flight shows up, and they are Canada's premier superhero team, and take that as you will. Apologies to Anna.
But it's Wolverine really is the one that and Nightcrawler that have to take the Wendigo out. It really doesn't seem like Alpha Flight has much to offer here. And of course, it's a rematch of Wolverine's first appearance. So, you're supposed to have read that and get some sort of nostalgia kick at it. And if you didn't read it, you got the recap of it in the previous issue. And it really, it looks like it's going to be Wolverine and Nightcrawler, but it's really Snowbird that takes out the Wendigo by transforming into, like, what is it? An actual Wolverine.
A very large Wolverine. A wolf-sized Wolverine.
Jeff Loeb, get a load of this.
I was thinking the same thing. Okay, so, here's the thing, though. John Byrne super did not know how to draw Wolverine because he hides the Wolverine face in shadow the whole time. He's like, I don't have reference for this. I don't know what this looks like. I'm going to use some chiaroscuro shading and some contrast to be like,
it's gonna be great.
I don't know how Wolverines work. Yeah. I appreciate that as well.
Shaman then turns the Wendigo back into a dude and they arrest him.
Okay, hold on. Because here's the thing about this specific dude, Georges Baptiste.
Yes.
Of all the Wendigos who are cannibals, which are most of them, this is one who's not. This is one who wanted to be a cannibal as a Wendigo, but as a dude, he was the most selfless Wendigo because he was like, I will take this curse from my best friend.
Yeah, it's still the same Wendigo from Incredible
Wolverine.
Hulk isn't it?
No, it is. We'll get to it when we cover it, but it is the same curse, but in a Christ-like manner transferred from that Wendigo to Georges Baptiste.
Right. Yeah, but it is still the okay. We'll get to it later. Okay, but I think we're in agreement.
No, because he's getting arrested here. Where do Wendigo laws start? Are you responsible for the Wendigo curse that you have taken on for
really
someone else's sins?
That question, right? Like,
I got a lot of Wendigo law questions.
Yeah, like if this guy was Wendigo and ate a guy, which I believe he did eat a guy.
That Wendigo spirit did. That's how he became the Wendigo. Is he did a cannibalism?
Yeah. So
which you can't do.
But
not on Canadian soil.
If you're not the Wendigo anymore, and you didn't eat a person to become the Wendigo, like this is a special case.
This is why She-Hulk stays in business. I'm actually a little shocked that Dan Slott did not bring that into his She-Hulk series. This seems like a case he would take on.
Oh, absolutely. It'd be really fun. So they're basically promising at the end of this issue that there's going to be an Alpha Flight series. You know, it says the ending of sorts, yet also the beginning of a new, possibly brighter chapter in the life of Alpha Flight. And you're like, okay, well, they're priming this for a series. And
That's Justin Trudeau's dad, right? Like, he's talking to Justin Trudeau's dad in this?
I believe so. Yes. There's also reference to Hudson Bay here, like lots of Canada stuff here. But is
Man,
Alpha
everyone
Flight
forgets
cool?
that Justin Trudeau's a nepo baby.
Oh, totally nepo baby. Absolutely.
Well, because we're dumb Americans, we don't know that.
Yeah. Yep. So I think we have spent enough time analyzing these two issues, and we should probably try and rank them on our big old list.
That's the thing about our podcast, and thank you for bringing it up, Adam, because it's so important to you, and I know it's important to me as well, is that we do have what we like to refer to as a big old list. It's a list where we are ranking every X-Men comic from best to worst.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the road again. We can't wait to get back out on the road again. What's his name's book, The Road? I forget. I was going to make a joke
McCarthy?
about Cormac McCarthy. I learned after I listened to the audiobook of that Cormac McCarthy doesn't use quotation marks, and I got so mad about that concept that I refused to read one of his books anymore.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't he just use dashes? I forget.
No, he just assumes when someone's.
Yeah, he hits the return button. It's just like, yeah.
Insane choice, Cormac McCarthy. Rest in peace. The Road was great. No one's saying you're a bad writer. I'm just saying, dear God, I don't care about your artistic integrity. Use quotation marks. Use a single quote like you're an old French person if you want, but use quotation marks. I'm trying to read here.
Oh, poor Zach.
Much like the father and the child on the road, I am beset upon by many trials and tribulations. And those trials and tribulations are Cormac McCarthy's poor use of pronunciation.
Oh my God. Or
grammar marks, excuse me.
If we are talking about cannibals this week, so the road fits right in.
The road does have a non-zero amount of cannibal content, but that's not the road that we're on. We're on the road to 900.
Yeah, there we go. You got there.
Eventually, 876 stories on this list. Number 1 being the House of X Powers of 10. Number 200 being Uncanny X-Men 122, Cry for the Children. Number 400 being Happenings in Vegas from X Factor. Number 600 being X-23 Daken Collision. Number 800 being What If Astonishing X-Men. And the worst X-Men comic of all time, 876, is 2099 Word of Tomorrow. This is fine. This is lesser Claremont. I don't want to say lesser Claremont. I think it's lesser Claremont and Byrne.
Yeah. It's definitely got those like really good Wolverine and Nightcrawler character moments in it that I think elevate, right? But there is too much Alpha Flight, so it's not. Yeah, I would say it's not that far off of at 215. We have the Savage Land arc, where they're just sort of wandering through. The Savage Land for several issues.
But that one also has. You have to understand, Adam, and this is so important to me. You know that scene in the Savage Land one, where Garrock and what's his name, Cyclops are doing a laser off.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
That scene was in the DK Guide to the X-Men, so I assumed it was an incredibly important moment in X-Men continuity my whole life.
Yeah.
Garrock the Petrified Man, excuse me. Yes, him. Full title's appropriate. You bring up the Wanted Wolverine Dead or Alive, which is the first appearance of the Alpha Flight.
But it has less Alpha Flight.
It does have the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah, I think that one's better.
That one is better. That's the thing. That's at 199 right now.
Yeah. But I think we're in the right realm. I mean, this is still like classic Byrne Claremont Uncanny. Like this is good stuff. It's lots of great character moments. How do you feel about it?
I have a different John Byrne comic highlighted.
Oh God. Okay.
X-Men 4-7, the Omega Red story, aka the story that Jim Lee was so excited to tell John Byrne that he changed Wolverine's costume back to his classic one because John Byrne loves the classics, and then John Byrne got mad at this punk kid who changed the costume that he gave Wolverine. A thing I find incredibly funny.
What number is that at on our list?
That's at 226.
Okay.
I think the Omega Red story's better.
I don't think the Omega Red story is better than this. I think that that's like classic visually, but I do think that we are in the right realm. I think we are in between 215 to 226. Like we are somewhere in here.
215. Now, I want to correct you as a friend and a co-host. 215 is not the one with Garrick the Petrified Man. That's the time they went to the Savage Land and Rogue was in that bikini. And there was also some Shi'ar stuff happening.
Okay, yeah.
That's 215.
Yeah. I think that's probably better than this, though.
I mean, we're in the same spot, but I wanted you to have the right mindset.
I'm sorry. Got that wrong. My bad.
You know what? Live and learn, Adam. Live and learn. I'm going to say at 221 is that arc in Wolverine and the X-Men where Kitty Pryde gets pregnated by the Brood. And then also... Yes, but then also Wolverine and Quentin Quire do a heist, which is fun.
I know it is, but those issues are not as good as this.
No, I just wanted to be like, it's not just the weird fetish art. There's other stuff in that comic.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it's not as much of the comic as we remembered when we reread it. You know,
it's not. No.
I think we're more on par with 219, which is the Magic versus Forge stuff in New Mutants.
I'm going to let you decide if it's above or below that, because I'm fine with either spot. I would put it below, but I know you like this a bit better than I do. I don't think this is better than Uncanny 97, My Brother, My Enemy, which has the screen and then the other screen and then the third screen.
Yeah, I'm thinking this should be our new 219. I think this should fit in between Uncanny 97 and New Mutants 65 to 66.
Great.
That's a great spot for it. This is a fun story with too much.
I'm glad we spent a half hour yelling about Alpha Flight and John Byrne. Hey,
man.
What are we doing next, Adam?
So
is it more Wendigos?
So many more Wendigos, pal. We are going to fast forward through to Amazing X-Men 8 to 12 with a little story called World War Wendigo. Amazing X-Men was, of course, Jason Aaron's next book after Wolverine and the X-Men before he left to do Thor stuff.
No, he was already doing Thor at the time. I forget what he left to do.
But didn't he leave to focus on that? He really only did a couple issues. I think he did what?
He did 6 issues. He did 6 issues, and he left in between what was supposed to be a 2-part story that never really got resolved, and it doesn't matter because Azazel got 8 now.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange.
It was very strange.
So we have...
He did Doctor Strange right after this.
Oh, no, right.
I forget all of it. Oh, wait, Original Sin. He had to do Original Sin.
That's what it was. He had to go tell his eyeball head story.
Listen, I got a weird amount of affection for Original Sin, even though I know it's not good.
It has some highlights. It's pretty terrible in general, but it shoots its shots. So this is not Jason Aaron. This is Craig Kyle and
Chris Yost.
Chris Yost. I was blanking on Yost's name. Art here is a mix of artists here. Who do we have on?
Ed McGuinness is on the first issue, but
he only sticks around for one issue, though.
It's rushed. That first
Carlos
issue was rushed. Barbieri and Iban Coelho.
That's who it is.
Okay. Do the rest of it. They kind of trade pages, and they're close enough in style. That's fine. But I'll tell you, it feels like McGuinness was contracted for 6 issues.
Uh-huh.
And they did this one, and I'm going to be honest, not his best work. This first issue of it, it feels like he's getting through it.
Sure.
Obviously, they had to adjust. All this stuff happened. I get it. But
it's just okay. However, I will say that this is one of the most bananas pitches for a story arc that I've heard in a while. I remember when this came out and I was like, what a great, funny idea for a Wendigo story. And I remember, messaging you in the Slack and I was like, maybe this story rules. And then I got about halfway through it and I was like, oh wait, no, but I'll tell you what.
I told you it didn't. I told you I was like, Adam, we're gonna talk.
I hadn't read it. I hadn't read it in a while, and I was focused on how the first half of this story has some great stuff. So the premise of World War Wendigo, as you know, listeners.
Great title, by the way. Best part of the comic is the title. You know, World War IV, we loved it. World War Wendigo, still in.
It's great. Great alliteration. To become a Wendigo, you have to consume human flesh, right?
On Canadian soil.
On Canadian soil. And
which we know is an ancient mystical thing because the borders of Canada and the US have always and forever been there.
Of course. Right? Since
time immemorial.
Yes. Which
since the great beasts.
So this story begins with a meat processing plant, and in that meat processing plant, a guy gets into an argument with a coworker, accidentally kills him, and decides to hide the evidence. Apparently, there's no security cameras in this meat processing plant by putting him through. Putting him through a meat grinder, so that meat from this plant goes out across the area and starts infecting people so that they become Wendigos.
Great pitch. Love it. Liked it better when it was the Skrull Kill Crew with nearly the exact same plot.
Yeah.
The same inciting incident of, in that case, you remember that Skrulls that just turned into cows and Fantastic Four number 2. Well, they were meat cows. They got turned into burgers, and then people got Skrull powers from those burgers.
Amazing.
Very funny idea. They do wholesale steal it for this. And you know, big old nerds Craig Kyle and Chris Yost know about Skrull Kill Crew.
I really enjoy the first couple issues of this because the threat of multiple Wendigos is a huge problem. Even taking down one Wendigo is a huge problem for multiple superheroes. So the fact that there are now not only like a dozen of them, but we're told that there is a threat of not only hundreds, but potentially thousands of Wendigo going around and just eating everybody. It is insane, the stakes that this story sets up.
I like the high concept. What I don't like about the start of this story, and actually a lot of the way through it, is how cheeky Craig Kyle and Chris Yost are in this.
Oh, you don't like that. Okay.
It's not landing for me, specifically because their humor is, hey man, I thought you were dead. I'm not dead anymore. Man, the X-Men come back from the dead a lot. That's weird. Isn't that funny, reader? Reader, isn't that funny? And I'm like, tell me a joke or don't.
You know what
reads? Don't just point to this thing we all know.
Hold on. You know what that reads to me, though? That really does read to me as Craig and Yost trying to match Jason Aaron's style, of Jason Aaron trying to tell a joke. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
It's like a Wolverine in the
even a little bit,
right?
That's a Jason Aaron thing. Right? I also don't like that when Jason Aaron.
That is the tone of the book that Jason Aaron had set up, and I feel like they're trying to match that.
So here's the difference, and this is a thing for this entire issue, and in fact into the end of this run, I feel kind of similar. Say what you will about the quest for Nightcrawler. I think it's a flawed story because it's about Azazel, a character who has negative good appearances. Steve Fox did his best to bring it up to positives, but you can only go so far, Steve. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Steve, we'll talk about Dark X-Men at one point, and you're going to get so many points for giving Maggot a beard and his own boat.
And a boat.
You have no idea how much I appreciate that. It's still a comic with Azazel in it, and that's got to dock you, man. I'm sorry. But Amazing X-Men is a comic that has, that story had emotional stakes. It was bringing Nightcrawler back. It was doing something. There is that fist-pumping moment where Nightcrawler gets reformed from all the Banff maggots.
Gross.
And he's, back. It's gross. But you, get a little bit of, oh, yeah, the boy's back.
Right.
Who learns, changes, or grows in this entire story? This doesn't feel like it's a narrative. It feels like it's a sequence of fight scenes. And that's a challenge for me.
Absolutely. So this particular arc is a joke, right? That is played for to try and stretch it out as fast as wild as it can. And there are things that work, right? Like the joke about trying to push as many Wendigos across the American Canada border so that they immediately turn back into people and that it's an immigration crisis at the border. That's pretty great. What doesn't work,
a better joke than it really should be.
Yeah. The reason that this story does not work is that we don't just try and push all the Wendigos across the border, right? What we do instead is we have to connect with the mystical gods of Canada. And not only do we have to battle the god of the Wendigos, right? Who's
I forget his name. Which one is it? Is that Tarak?
Sure. I don't know.
It's Tanarak, the Conqueror of Beasts.
Thank you. So stupid. But not only
John Byrne creation, baby.
That the gods of the North here need to be contacted, but the X-Men themselves need to be turned into gods. And I'm reading this going, we got Storm here. We got Iceman here. We got Omega level mutants here who could definitely not need to be transformed into some sort of god alongside with Firestar and somebody else. So I'm like,
literally earlier in this run, 2 issues ago, Iceman froze hell.
Yeah.
So it is weird for him and Storm specifically to be talking to the great beasts, like Tolmok, the fire beast, and Tundra, the land beast, and all of other John Byrne's bad ideas that, again, he put into Alpha Flight. And now we have to bring back, which, by the way, for someone who reads X-Men, this is a wild story to be like, and now we're in this dimension with all of these weird gods. And I'm like,
no, thank you.
This isn't an X-Men thing. No amount of arguing that Alpha Flight's an X-Men thing will make me read Alpha Flight 24. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so the fact that happens and that it's a Captain Planet deal, because you have, they're each one of the elements, right? Because Rock Slide is the 4th one. It's like,
yeah, I forgot. Rock Slide's in this because Kyle and Yost love him.
And they do. There are some fun character stuff in here, right? Like there's a lot of good North Star stuff in here. There's some fun. There's some fun Rock Slide stuff in here. But I think the other thing that this lacks is that by this point in the book, Nightcrawler isn't even the leader of the book that he's headlining. It doesn't make sense. Storm is the leader of this team. And, by the time we get to the end and it's like, great, we've become gods and we've defeated the Wendigo. It's like, I just didn't care.
We're saying the X-Men turn into gods. You would think that sounds cool. You can see they get slightly different looking ice, fire, lightning, and rock powers. That's it.
Yeah, they're slightly larger, I guess.
And then Guardian explodes out of the Tarnak, the whatever Conqueror of Beasts.
Because the god ate him earlier, so great.
So it's like, okay, great. It ends. Oh, Wolverine's been a Wendigo this whole time, by the way, because he lost his healing factor. It doesn't matter. It's more annoying than anything else.
Yeah, it's not interesting at all. I think the biggest mystery for me in this is how much body glue it took for Talisman to keep that costume on. Because it really didn't.
Talisman is wearing a Chris Bachalo looking shirt.
And then they have to take her to the ER in there because Wolverine stabs her. It's like
stabs her right in the gut.
That outfit's not staying on. Let's rank this. This is not good.
Do we have to? This one's bad, actually.
Yeah,
this is a bad
wanted this
comic.
one to be fun, and it wasn't.
I wanted it to be more fun than it was.
Yeah, because it has some fun stuff in it, but it let me down.
The fact that you push people over the U.S.-Canada border, they stop being Wendigos.
It's pretty great.
It's dumb if you think about it for 2 seconds, but it's really funny otherwise. That's the problem I have with this. It feels like they were like, what's the first idea? Best idea.
Yeah.
Immediately. Yep. And instead of setting up emotional stakes or doing any of that stuff, they were like, how can we spend more time perfecting the script on Thor the Dark World? which one of them wrote.
This is a 600 story?
Where do we have other... well, I don't think... We have one other amazing... We have the story right after this, 13, is on the list at... Oh, that's at 403 because it's not what you want it to be. And it's unfortunate that that's the only thing James Tynion IV ever wrote on X-Men and never likely will write on X-Men because there's not a lot of folks that would be like, I want to read their X-Men. I would read JTIV's X-Men. It would get weird and it would have great production values.
Let's do it. That'll never happen now, but
it won't. He's got all that big money. No, this is worse than Ghost Box at 600.
I agree. I'm just looking down the list. Is this better or worse than Curse of the Mutants at 613?
It's worse than Curse of the Mutants because Curse of the Mutants is dumb with better art. And I don't think Curse of the Mutants knows it's dumb. Where I think they know that World War Wendigo knows it's dumb and tries to be like, look how dumb it is. And Curse of the Mutants does that beautiful Rocky Horror, Rocky Horror, but I've never seen. What was I thinking of? And a Mystery Science Theater thing where the movie doesn't know how dumb it is and it turns it into amazing. And that's somewhat how I feel about Curse of the Mutants. And if someone's going to tell me Curse of the Mutants knows that it's dumb, I'm just going to ask them, why did Victor Glesher keep doing that story after those 6 issues?
All right, so I'm going to suggest that if we're better than Curse of the Mutants...
No, we're below Curse of the Mutants. Curse of the Mutants wins.
Curse of the Mutants.
In my mind, this is your podcast too. If you think that this is better than Scott Summers reassembling a Dracula, bringing him back to life and telling him, I just want you to follow your heart.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
I mean, I think about Curse of the Mutants. I don't think about World War Wendigo.
Yeah, I liked Curse of the Mutants. That first arc. So
much better. Paco Medina art was way better.
You have selected Marvel Holiday Special 2007?
No, selected's a strong word. I clicked.
You accidentally.
So that I accidentally selected. I just clicked because I click on Excel all day. It's how I get paid. This is... How do you feel about this compared to Weapon X-Force? That's a 639. And better. I feel like Weapon X-Force is better. I kind of think so too.
Yeah, but I think this might be better than X-Men versus the Brood at 640.
Let's put it right there then.
All right, perfect. So this is going to be our new 640 World War Wendigo. And as promised earlier in the episode, we are going to go back to Wolverine's first appearance in Incredible Hulk 180 and 181, written by Len Wein and drawn by Herb Trimpe. And boy, man, this Incredible Hulk guy, he just doesn't know who his friends are. You know, that's all this story is. He just wants a friend, can't find one.
You say he wants a friend. I think he wants to tangle with someone. And if you freaks want to tangle with someone, why not try your luck against the Wolverine? How? Okay, we got to talk about this. How did Wolverine get over? How? Because he's not a good character in this comic, and his costume is truly atrocious.
I'll tell you how. Len Wein and Giant Size X-Men. That's the answer. Right there.
And the fact that Dave Cockrum accidentally shaded his cowl differently on the cover of that, and they were like, wait, no, that's better.
Like, wow,
get that Romita guy out of here. He doesn't know what he's talking about. John Romita did the costume, and lots of love to Jazzy John. Lots of love. But this one, the costume is honestly pretty good from the head down. It just needed a second pass on that cowl.
Yeah. So, for people who have not read this arc, yes, the second issue, which is the first appearance of Wolverine, which has been reprinted many times, involves a Wolverine fighting off the Wendigo and fighting the Hulk. But what people may not realize is that the reason there is this, conflict is also involving a mystical curse involving a self-trained mystic who is trying to transform this Wendigo back into his human form so that she can make another person. Oh, she wants to make the Hulk the Wendigo. which would have been very
because she knows it's her brother. So Marie Carriere, she is a self-trained mystic, and I've got to tell you, white people, listen to me. Don't try and learn indigenous Canadian magic.
Oh boy.
We're not going to do it good. Like, don't.
I don't know.
Don't mess with curses.
Skills. She's got some skills. She's able to summon the Hulk. She's able to convince the Hulk that she's the Hulk's friend. And
I'm not gonna appropriate Wendigo magic. I'm not doing that. I know better.
What's great is that the reason that her like boyfriend or husband or whatever it is the Wendigo.
It's her brother. Paul is her brother.
It's her brother. Yeah, it got caught in like a storm and like resorted to cannibalism as part of this, and like blames.
He did eat somebody.
Yeah, he like ate somebody. She blames the friend who got them on this hiking trip to begin with, and wants to make the Hulk the Wendigo. But ultimately, by the end of the story, it's the friend who becomes the new Wendigo.
It's George Baptiste who they fought in that first story.
Exactly. That's the guy I was talking about.
I get it. It's a tragic, like, EC horror. I mean, I say EC horror. It's bad EC horror. It's like Twilight Zone-y. Like, oh, look at my ironic fate thing that happens. But what really happens is one of these guys ate a dude.
Right.
And his sister's really upset about him. And I feel like we need to put some personal responsibility on the man who ate a dude.
Instead of the guy who took him out on hiking trip, right? Though we don't know if Paul ate anybody.
Paul did eat that guy on Canadian soil because he turned into a Wendigo. That's how Wendigos work in Marvel comics.
But the friend didn't.
Oh, George? Yeah, we don't know if George is.
Yeah.
Did a cannibalism. It can be assumed that as a Wendigo, I mean, he was attempting a cannibalism, which is better, but not good.
Attempted cannibalism.
Title of the episode, by the way, is not appropriate behavior in the workplace or in the wilderness.
Now we got to talk about the Wendigo here for a second, because you just said, like, I can't believe Wolverine got over. I mean, the Wendigo looks like a huge Dorcas here. Like,
okay,
Herb gives him this like comically large nose. He just looks like a big old dork when he's fighting the Hulk.
I mean, listen,
props to John Byrne for making him look kind of terrifying when he brings him back, because like he does not look scary here.
John Byrne also gives him that giant nose, which I think is funny. If you look at the Byrne stuff right with this, Byrne also gives him a honker. But the thing about Herb Trimpe, and again, I say this, a legend in the field, Herb just kind of drew people who looked like that. He just gave his Wendigo a regular Herb Trimpe face.
Yeah. What I love about 181 is that the Hulk, again, is looking for like some sort of friendship and companionship, and is like,
all he wants is a friend.
He's like Wolverine. He's beating up that white furred monster. He must be my pal. And then he's shocked, just plain shocked, when Wolverine is like, oh, I'm going to beat up the Hulk now. And it's like, oh man, I thought you were my man. Like, what happened?
What Hulk's line, which is great, says, yes, little man is Hulk's friend, so Hulk will help little man fight Hulk's enemy. Hulk has come, little friend, to help you beat Wendigo.
And then later, when Hulk betrays him, he says, puny little man, Hulk thought you were Hulk's friend. Hulk trusted you, but you betrayed Hulk, attacked Hulk, just like all the other puny humans Hulk has known. He's always about the puny humans.
Listen, I know that, like, Hulk is a hell demon now, and, like,
sure,
was a spaceship recently, and green doors, and weird Appalachian monsters that, listen, I'm not a big PKJ guy. Philip Kennedy Johnson's not my favorite. I kind of dig his Hulk. I don't know if it's not smart like the Al Ewing Hulk, but it is running on some, like, dirty Southern horror vibes, and I can, like, dig that a bit.
I do enjoy the fact that this does start the Hulk-Wolverine rivalry, because Hulk does win the fight by knocking Wolverine out, which is pretty great.
I mean, it's Hulk's book. This is a book called Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I mean,
it'd be weird if this guy just shows up immediately, has Hulk put him over, and then he's like, "Okay, I'll see you in a couple of years, bub."
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
This is fun.
Hold, I want to go back to something you just said. Sorry, I just saw a panel of the Wendigo's giant nose.
It's so big.
It's so big.
It's comically large. Like, it's like really weird.
It's just like a bulbous nose. It's a wild one.
Yep.
Anyway, I want to go back to something. Do you like the Hulk Wolverine rivalry? Because I kind of don't.
Oh, I think it's fun. I like that they just don't like each other. You know what I mean? And like every once in a while, it's just like the Thing and the Hulk, and like, you know, they're just two guys that need to beat each other up every once in a while. That's fine. I think Marvel Comics is great for that.
I would prefer it if they were definitely always just like, screw that guy.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, but then we're going to team up and we're going to always reference this one comic. Like, here's what I want. I want a thing where Bruce Banner's in the lab and someone mentions Weapon X and Bruce Banner goes on a tear. He's like, oh, screw that guy. He sucks. I legitimately do not enjoy that man's company. We've been on Avengers together. That guy, not my favorite.
Oh,
like,
man.
If that came up, or if Hulk was like, yeah, what a puny, or if Wolverine's like, yeah, what a puny crybaby. Can't say like, oh, look at me. I'm so strong. Forget about it. Try having your wife die and go to hell several times, which I do believe has happened to Bruce Banner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get that a little bit in Simonson's New Fantastic Four, where they just can't stand each other, and it's pretty great.
Oh, can I tell you a secret? I've never actually read that. I bet I'd like it.
Oh,
it's got Ghost Rider. It's got Wolverine.
Hey, if anybody wants
David Hulk, but
we've never done that on the show. Right?
Listen, if someone wants to recommend that we do the New Fantastic Four, is it an X-Men comic? I don't know. I'll figure it out.
I mean,
well, Wolverine. Folks, if you ever want to know what a X-Men story is, it's the same rule that I used back in the day on Xavier Files. If I think that I want to talk about it,
then it counts.
Yes. When someone's like, oh, you should do a profile on the Griffin, I say, no, that's not an X-Men character, because I don't want to do that. No one suggests the Griffin-based episodes, and if you do, I'll return your $5. I won't question it. Do recommend a New Fantastic Four episode. Oh, I'll do that. That'll count.
One of my favorite stories of all time. Now,
can we not do any sequel? No, wait, I take that back. We'll find appropriate sequels. In fact, no. If someone gives us a New Fantastic Four episode, I already know everything we'll fill it with.
Amazing.
It's done. It's already set in stone. Adam, do you have any? Like,
this is better than World War Wendigo, though, right?
It's better than World War Wendigo because this is bad in the way that every Marvel comic in 1974 was bad. And I say that not knowing every Marvel comic that came out in 1974, but like,
yeah, I still enjoyed.
They don't sound good. I didn't hate it. It's a little long. It's a little Len Weinherb Tribby's just not doing it for me in general. I actually did just look at every comic they came out with in November of 1974.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel has had better years.
I think we're in the 600s. Is this better or worse than Judgment War at 619? I think you probably got to give it to Judgment War, right?
You know what? If you want to give it to Judgment War, that's great. Hey, I'm sorry. I just pulled up the Spider-Man cover from this month by Gil Kane. You want to talk about weird noses. It's Amazing Spider-Man 138. Adam, please click on this link.
Okay, here we go.
Look at this guy's weird nose. What's with weird noses in November of 1974?
Oh, wow.
Who's this weirdo?
Yeah, he's got the gerbil nose.
Oh, it's about famous Spider-Man villain, Mindworm.
Yeah, it's the Mindworm. Oh, yeah. It's a great
5 total appearances of the Mindworm.
Surprised there's more than one.
It was a Spider-Man thing created in the first 200 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. They keep bringing that stuff back.
Is this better than King Hyperion Arc of Exiles?
No. Wait. No, it's not. Sorry, I had to think. Because the King Hyperion arc is the one where King Hyperion takes over the other squad of exiles. It's not the arc where Beak becomes friends with other Hyperions to take out King Hyperion, which is a good story, actually.
I'd say we're on par with 625, which is Cyclops Retribution from Marvel Comics Presents.
They're going to tar and feather us for saying this, but I don't care that this comic is important. It's not very good.
It's just okay. It's it's of its time.
I think Cyclops Retribution is probably worse on a pure craft level.
All right. So is this better than the Christmas issue of X-Men Volume 2 109? I think this is better than that, but not as
109. 109. Okay, 109 is the white cover one.
Yes.
That starts Extreme. Okay, sorry, because Chris Claremont does 2 weird one-off fill-in Christmas issues in the early 2000s.
I think this is better than that, but not as good as What If Volume 2 46 to 47, which is both the X-Men stuff.
Yeah, that's when Cable killed the X-Men and Magneto takes over the USA.
Yes.
That's fine. This can be our new 624.
Great. See, we didn't end up talking about that much Alpha Flight in the second 2/3.
We talked about more. Adam, this episode is probably going to run over an hour, and we spent a third of it talking about Alpha Flight.
Too much.
It's weird. Hey, is it weird that they dropped the Weapon X code name for him immediately, right as in this story? That's a cool one.
Yeah, it's cool.
In the cool one, they're like, "Oh, Weapon X is coming," and it's like, "What that?" And it's disappointing, especially if you know what Weapon X is. You're like, and you obviously didn't before this, but going back now, you're like, "This is how we're introducing Wolverine, the man who's going to be the co-star of the 3rd Deadpool movie." The one that's going to introduce Deadpool to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
All right, stop. We're not talking about that right now.
Not yet, but we're going to do a whole episode about it. We will.
Let's thank Robert.
Robert, thank you for making us talk about Alpha Flight for so long.
Oh,
if you want to be like Robert, Robert knows.
Yeah.
Folks.
Patreon.
And folks, we got some fun stuff coming up. Adam, what do you got coming up?
A lot of stuff going on at Comics XF. We did have a technical difficulty, so hopefully that got fixed by the time this episode comes out. But
did the site break?
Yeah, the site broke recently. So
I'm so glad I don't fix the site anymore.
It's okay.
Love the site. Love to Dan.
Yeah, I see Dan Groot is on the case. We did a really fun little thing about the X-Men 97 trailer. And then I tackled the last issue of Fall of the House of X and kind of nice discourse about that. You can always follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram at Adam Rec, at Arthur Stacy on Twitter. And Zach, what are we talking about next week?
Looks like we're talking about Lila Cheney.
That's right. Yeah, we have a Lila Cheney / Guido episode. Should be interesting.
Man, you know what? If we would have thought about this, we would have tied in the Lila Cheney story that was portrayed in the recent movie, The Marvels, but we didn't do that.
Well, we could still do that if that's what you want to do.
I don't want to do that. Honestly, it'll make us both upset because here's the thing. It's a thing that's done all in song and rhyme in a comic, and lots of love to Kelly Sue DeConnick. But she did just as well as everyone else who's ever attempted that.
Oh,
you know what? We'll save that for an episode where we get mad at every time someone's tried to do something in a comic in metered verse, and be like, y'all are so bad at this.
Yeah.
Never have they done it good. It's shocking.
Nope. Don't do it. But our next episode will not be in meter and verse.
Remember when Matt Fraction tried to do an entire series in metered verse? But it was in whatever the Iliad is written in, and that's not something that really works in English.
That sounds terrible. No, I don't remember that.
I'm sorry, it's not the Iliad, it's Odyssey. I don't actually know if Odyssey and the Iliad were written in the same meter, because I haven't read Homer stuff. It has Christian Ward art. It looks great, and I keep wanting to try and get into it, but I cannot get past the first issue of Matt Fraction's gender-swapped Odyssey with beautiful Christian Ward sci-fi art. I am really going after the Fraction DeConnick household in the last minute of this episode for no reason. I am so sorry, you milk-fed criminal masterminds. They will not be brought up next episode. But until then, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!